And that's how I see the art coming in Poland, as a banner on the works of human towers, not like a toy or learning, but the highest of the crafts of the apostle, and the lowest prayer of an angel. It would seem like an innocent flower, growing somewhere out of the way, blooming far away from human settlements. Sprayed with smoke from roadside exhaust fumes, the plant would seem extraordinary if we, instead of glancing from behind a dirty window, stopped at the side of the road to be able to take a closer look at its beauty. Oh, if only we could see its majestic spreading petals, perhaps we would know in this colorful wonder of nature the spark, hunted to life by the touch of the delicate hand of an angel, and the reflection of his holy fingers, brushed on a fragile stalk. So what is art? Are these eccentric works of inspired geeks? Are the freaks of the crazy souls of artists who want to carve their star among the depths of human imagination, to leave a lasting trace of their hands on the blood-stained manuscript of history? What do these performances, songs, poems and pictures mean, applauded in thousands of words, filling with amazement and surrounded by a hint of unusefulness? What is Mona Lisa? The Last Supper? Hamlet? The Phantom of the Opera? Our Swan Lake? Are these only fragments of canvas stained with a mixture of faber? Pieces of paper densely decorated with the letter sound that we can hear through the organ of hearing. Or maybe is it something bigger? A fragment of an elusive word, frozen in time. A human soul, captured in a work. A piece of human, maybe even humanity. A shard of human genius. Do they play any role in our lives? Or maybe they played it in history. This question, seemingly trivial and not significant, is the key answer today. For what? You ask surprised, what does Leonardo's work have to do with me and today's world? What is his role? Answering, can we agree with what one of the Polish poets wrote, who claimed that art is a tool to obtain easy and innocent happiness? To equip a child with it is to give him a supply of sensations, food for life. Art opens new worlds, widens the horizon, teaches the world, and when God gave a little bit of what we call creative power, what a delight when a thought can throw on canvas a singing tones. And if so, where are we now? Where did we go as people? Where are we lost? What a moment in our history, when the artist is considered a man skillfully arranging a poop in the toilet, and a mannequin in the shape of a female body, lying in a tub full of blood, is considered a work of art and eaten by guests. What is the moment of human history, when in theaters hundreds of empty people with full pockets, instead of applauding a dying Hamlet, do this when they see the blood-clad actress, who, artistically, sucks the Pope's finger, imitating oral sex? And if Polish poet was right in writing that art has no purpose, it is an end in itself, it is an absolute, because it is a reflection of the absolute, the soul. And because it is an absolute, so it cannot be caught in any notches, it cannot be at the service of any idea. It is the lady, the source from which all her life emerged. Art stands above life, penetrates into the essence of all things, reads hidden runes to ordinary people, embraces the universe from one eternity to another, knows neither boundaries nor laws, knows only one eternal continuity and power of the soul's existence, associates the human soul with the soul of the universe, and he considers the soul of the individual as a manifestation of that. What are the reflection of the sick images that are presented to us today as its manifestation? What is the reflection of the sick images that are presented to us today as its art manifestation?
Wise heads tell us these things it is not for our minds and that we shouldn't unnecessarily try to get to the point.
We think then, well, there must be something to it, since such great people applaud it. Maybe it's just not for me, maybe I'm too stupid to understand it. And we get up, cheering together with the crowd to be part of the same clown spectacle dressed in a suit. We rhythmically strike our hands, putting on a mask of intelligent delight, desiring to find ourselves among the world of those whom we have to accept as elites. Intellectually, they must be above us. Or maybe not at all. Maybe it's just a deception, untrue except for those adopted by equally untrue people, full of nasty lies, having a sense of superiority, of gods over mortals. Is this inaccessible Olympus, from whose peaks they seem to look at us, is really Olympus? Or is it just an illusion we've been fed since our early childhood, and behind this illusion is only a pile of dirty, hardly worth rubbish? Various texts and books posing for the books of the wise people, modern cinematography and various, wise, scientists, university professors, try to convince us. To convince us that art is difficult to comprehend and the works of eccentric artists should be understood in a twisted way, other than it seems.
They're debating artistically arranged faces. Ah,
how lofty! How wonderful! What craftsmanship! Incomprehensible to a mere mortal.
Then they go to the department where the eminent actress with elaborate meticulousness reproduces the oral relationship with a nonetheless great actor. Ah,
what a technique! What perfect, full-fledged, important thing! They scream and then pass to glance at the wonderfully laid, bloody corpses of the babies on which the woman sits in a ragged, bloody drag. My God! What a genius this show is! They are satisfied.
Oh, ordinary children of God will not get it, this poor nasty people.
Average bread eaters, who stand intellectually far below them, they claim, glorifying and praising their apparent intellectual superiority over mortals. They forget Faust's words. Alas, I have thoroughly studied philosophy, medicine, law, and unfortunately, even theology, with sweat and effort.
Yet here I stand, poor fool.
What more, not one whit wiser than before. And they posing to be a modern Socrates. Wise people who honoring only their own idolatry. They rush people like cattle, chasing animals like a hunter, whipping and killing all signs of rebellion. The bad, rebellious sheep, questioning the rules of the world, which they established, should be separated from the herd so that the works do not spoil with their rebellious approach. I am a black sheep. What was once our treasures offered to keep silent Dane. They said, come here among us, stand upright with 2 feet, you will become something more. And when I had torn my hoofs from the ground, hoping for a better future in their false skin,
I feel gentle touch of someone's hand on my shoulder lay down.
Turning my head, I saw the sad face of an angel who only shook his head. They are yours, he whispered softly, pointing to the herd, and disappeared. The hoofs fell back to the ground again and I fled. Very far. I explored lands where no decent sheep should ever be found. I was looking, though I don't know for what. Over time, I noticed that I have been walking on my feet. Gods, these are not hooves. The shepherds of passing farms were scowling at me, exactly like puzzled people dressed as sheep. I tried to speak to them, but all what I heard sound was like the bleating and I didn't understand. Shut up! Shut up! Shepherd dogs snarled and their shepherds shouted to me. And one day God directed my steps to an unusual place. I wandered through the watery mud when one moment I was surprised to see that I found myself in something like an old cemetery, where tombstones frightened me from the ground, age-old, faded and devastated.
Crouching, I see an object barely protruding above the silt, resting quietly and calmly, as if even momentarily, in a deep mud.
When I reach for it, the piece turns out to be the frame in which the picture painted on the canvas is embossed. I pull it out, though not without a little effort, and see the painting of a mysteriously smiling woman who seems to look at me as if alive. Gently wiping the inscription on the devastated, cracked stone, and then I find her name. Mona Lisa. I saw her, a masterpiece of human hands lying in the grave, mastery over the championships, art over the arts. A breathtaking image, true perfection, a thing so perfectly beautiful and wonderful that it is impossible to pass by indifferently and without opening its mouth and eyes wide with delight at its artistry. I saw her, dead and buried in a forgotten grave in an abandoned art cemetery. Resting alongside other works of Leonardo, among the compositions of Mozart, Chopin and Beethoven, resting near paintings by Rembrandt, Raphael, Botticelli, surrounded by sculptures by Michelangelo, Donatello and Myrian, among the scattered treatises of Mark Aurelius, Socrates, Plato and Aristotle, collapsing near poetry of Virgil, Herbert, Horace, Shakespeare and Dante, and the books of Homer, Goethe, Sophocles, Byron and Tolstoy. And then I realized that it was not a necropolis of works of art, but a cemetery of humanity. I smiled and understood that this is what I have always been looking for. I returned to the farm and, under the guise of fun, kidnapped a few sheep, abducting them quietly from the farm. They moaned with satisfaction during the journey, wondering that it was so beautiful outside the wooden fence. According to the shepherd's words, many danger souses were lurking here for their innocent lives. "What's that?" they shouted, surprised when we reached our destination. And I saw them rise from their knees, shedding sheepskins and rubbing their eyes as if they had woken up from a long winter sleep. Among humanity they were once again the people they always were, killing in them beauty and goodness. They were pressed into an animal shell, and now they were themselves again. They looked at their legs, arms and faces with astonishment. "It's me." They are astonished, and the question was heard when their eyes wandered among the wonderful crumbs of history. They combed them with their eyes, stating with amazement that they were like a mirror and that when looking at them they looked at themselves, like in cases a sheet of crystal clear water. I saw that. I know that they would never return to the safe farm. They will wander in the turn of fate, win and lose, getting up and falling down all the time. But the divine spark will always remain in them, which is a cry for freedom and truth, forcing them to seek the answer to the question, who are we? Because this is what art is, it is an attempt to answer the question about ourselves and the sense of our existence. This is a signpost that leads us to understand yourself, leading us deep into the soul. This is perfectly understood by those who want us to be lost, because they want to be our leaders. Pumping enormous resources into nothingness, nihilism and hedonism, they imprison millions of people in the emptiness of materialism, pushing them towards animosity and drive, taking man away from his true nature. Who is easier to wield? A loafer who only sees material goods, not looking for anything and not asking questions. Or maybe a man asking and seeking an answer who knows his value and knows that it is not limited only to the goods it possesses. Ignorance is controlled simply. All you have to do is enter a properly prepared question, prepare a simple answer in time, and serve it in the press or television. It is different with knowledge. She considers, questions and desires truth, not simplicity. So you can't fool her with banality. Therefore, everything was done to keep us from it. It was buried and removed from us, hiding it deeply from our eyes, substituting for us the abominations that they called art. By feeding the people with disgust, man was destroyed, they sterilizing him from humanity and pushing him away from good and beauty. And so worthless ugliness was called beauty, ignorance, wisdom, unconditional obedience is civic responsibility, and feces is an artistic work. And it didn't happen by accident. This was never accidental, and it never will be. As in the eyes of a man sensitive to beauty, a woman sitting on the bodies of babies or holding a goat's skull will never be a work of art. And not. It is not a matter of taste, as some would like to maintain. Leonardo da Vinci looking at the works of Marina Abramovic would probably flinch only in disgust, not thinking that he is dealing with art. And he would be right, because this artist has nothing to do with her. Her work is only a monster of our time, pretending to be something, what it wasn't, never been, and dressed in a mask, which is in fact an empty shell that only gives her sick eyes momentous appearance. There is nothing behind it. It has no value, and even more, it cannot be defined by art. It is simply nothing to stand out. How can this be compared with Mona Lisa, or the works of Michelangelo, calling all these things one name and standing next to each other? Can anyone with a healthy mind do such things? And yet, this is how it is done, disgracing the genius of those really great and throwing it down, placing a sign of equality between an outstanding work and abomination, between a masterpiece and faces. In this way art is murdered, and our souls are killed through it. Leonardo wrote that thanks to art we can be called the grandchildren of God. It is here that the most important of wars takes place. This is fought not with rifles, but with words. Where the stake is not a throne or a presidential chair, but a man and his soul.